Hey everyone, today is a good day. I'm back in the shop and try and make some more productivity happen on Project Zero. Got the shop up to about 58 degrees or so. It's a little chilly outside. You can see snow in the background. It's a little frosty out there, but see what I can make happen today. And behind me I have some of yesterday's pickup. If you didn't see that video, check that out up there. Pickup of my plasma cutter and TIG AC DC combo machine. So I'm really excited for that one. And right now I'm going to do a bit of an unboxing on that, check it out, see what it all came with, and then maybe even put it to use on some floor pan here. I'm going to get to the point where I'm trimming this out. I'm going to start welding in the section that I have on the floor that I've been cleaning up. Also got that frame rail there. I do have to get the floor pan area tidied up and kind of finalized a bit more before I can actually put that frame rail in there. Plus I am going to paint the inside of the frame rail, and we'll prime and paint it so it's all nice and sealed up, as well as all this bare metal area here, so when I do have it all welded up, it's sealed, because once it's in there, you're not going to get a whole lot in there. I would like to try out some internal frame coating. There are a couple companies that do have some. Eastwood's the one that's really intrigued me. However, I am in Canada. It is hard to get up here. If anybody knows anybody who sells it, Eastwood internal frame coating, please drop a comment or link down below. Let me know. I'd be very interested in that. I want to do the front frame rails and also the opposite rear frame rail that is existing in the car, so please let me know. Alright, so now it's time for some excitement. Here I have myself my Everlast PowerPro 205 SI multi-process machine. This is an AC/DC TIG welder, stick welder, and 50 amp plasma cutter combo. The reason I went with this is I wanted a plasma cutter. I was looking at their 60 amp unit and looking at its cut capability versus what this was. This had a very similar cut capability, and also for an extra $600 you get the AC/DC TIG capability. That's a huge bonus for me. I've always wanted a TIG. Never had the time to actually learn how to do it, or had anybody that's had a machine that's available to be borrowed or spend some time with to actually figure out how to do it. So this made the most sense. Gives me opportunities for advancement in the future. When I get around to doing some things on the Project Zero here, exhaust work and some other fine finish work, I now have the capability to do TIG, so I'm pretty stoked for that. I've got my tungsten and some other accessories on order. Need to get myself some argon, hopefully within the next week or two, but for now the plasma is the important part. I need to cut some sections out of the floor here, trim this all up nice, graft my new piece in, and this is going to help me a ton. So let's get into it. Alright, so now it's time for some excitement. Here I have myself my Everlast PowerPro 205 SI multi-process machine. This is an AC/DC TIG welder, stick welder, and 50 amp plasma cutter combo. The reason I went with this is I wanted a plasma cutter. I was looking at their 60 amp unit and looking at its cut capability versus what this was. This had a very similar cut capability, and also for an extra $600 you get the AC/DC TIG capability. That's a huge bonus for me. I've always wanted a TIG. Never had the time to actually learn how to do it, or had anybody that's had a machine that's available to be borrowed or spend some time with to actually figure out how to do it. So this made the most sense. Gives me opportunities for advancement in the future. When I get around to doing some things on the Project Zero here, exhaust work and some other fine finish work, I now have the capability to do TIG, so I'm pretty stoked for that. I've got my tungsten and some other accessories on order. Need to get myself some argon, hopefully within the next week or two, but for now the plasma is the important part. I need to cut some sections out of the floor here, trim this all up nice, graft my new piece in, and this is going to help me a ton. So let's get into it. Operating instructions, we'll look at them later. Nice foam padding in there, that's appreciated. We have our accessories box here. Get that power cord out of the way. So here we have our TIG torch, some consumables, and it also does have this nice zip up sheathing on it already, which is greatly appreciated. Looks like we have our handle to the top of our unit, our TIG pedal, our argon line, some more handles for the unit. These new ones actually have the option of stacking. When you put these handles on the top, the rest of the units on the bottom are made to actually latch into that. We have our plasma. I believe this is an IPT60, fairly standard unit. Our stick welding option, which I won't take advantage of a whole lot, but it's nice just to have it. And then we have our ground lead. All these are standard style DINS plugs. Take a look in here. We have, oh, looks like our regulator. We'll look into this stuff a little more later. Let's get into the good stuff. So we got some of our packaging out of the way here now. This thing has quite a bit of weight to it. It's pretty substantial, but it does also have a lot of options. This is a very nice looking unit on first look. The corner of the box was damaged. They said they inspected it and there was no damage. I don't see anything on here so far, so that's nice. We got this handy front lid dust cover. It's just nice in the shop environment, keeps things a lot cleaner. And then you have all your connections along the front. Appears to be about a 4-foot power cord, standard 220 connector. I believe there is also an adapter to go down to 110 in the package. We'll check that out. For now, let's try and get some handles on here. One thing I'm noticing is there's not a lot of thread engagement on these. Probably going to get 3, maybe 4 threads to grab. Would be nice if they sent just slightly longer screws. Yeah, not a ton of thread engagement there. So we've got our plasma torch here. It does have this standoff tool on it here. They used to have a wire piece. It looks a lot more durable, and it's also got a bit of a flexibility in the cable here, which should help with durability. Not sure if you can see this here, but I actually went to connect this with the DINS plug already twisted, and it's so tight with the way this goes out the side here that it touches. Be mindful of that. Kind of rotate the clamps away a little bit and try and keep them from contacting. Hopefully make it last as long as you can. It's a little weird. It would have been nicer if they had just a little tighter elbow coming out of here. Again, I don't have a whole lot of background with different plasma cutters, so not sure what competitors have for that, but just something I noticed. all the connections are pretty straightforward and easy, and we're good to go. Well, I have to apologize. My statement of these being too close was due to my own error. I guess I should have read the instructions first. Again, how I mentioned I don't have a whole lot of background. I forgot. You're supposed to be negative and your workpiece is grounded to positive. Backwards from what you would think, but that is how it works. There's ample clearance between them now. I would be careful when you're in your welding cart how close this edge is or what you have around this corner, just because this does stick out. But seems to lock in nice. Everything's a good positive connection and feel. Oh, I would double check all these connections before you go and use anything on there. You need to snug some things down. We're gonna get this put together, hook up some air, try out the plasma. Okay, so I've been doing a little bit of setup on the machine off camera here, and I have a couple, I guess, minor gripes. Couple things that would have been nice if they were included, such as clamps for your air feed hose. They give you a barb fitting, that's great, but as soon as you get any amount of air pressure in there, that just blows off. Would have been nice if they could have done that, just make it a little more complete. You need one on either side, and one at the regulator, and that leads me to my next thing. So I had this hooked up, and unfortunately you have to mount it on the side of the machine. I will bring you around here. So you have to mount this tab on the side of the machine. It doesn't look like there's anywhere on the back. They give you a couple silver screws. I'm not sure why. Washers. They look like it'd be to mount this, but there's already these screws on the side of the case. So the instructions leave a little bit to be desired. Again, I get it that it's from overseas. You've got a little translation going on there. Just something that would have been nice to be able to mount it back there, have it out of the way. This could definitely interfere depending on the style of cart that you've got. The regulator. It's my next little gripe, I suppose you could call it again. I hooked the air line up. I had a bit of a leak. I was trying to be quick. I didn't put thread sealant on it. So I put thread sealant on it. Okay, that didn't leak anymore. Started winding up the top of the regulator, which is here. And as soon as I brought it up a bit more, I heard more of a leak. So I went and checked my fitting. Well, it's not leaking there. It was actually leaking between the bottom of this and the top of this rubber seal. So as you can see here, I've actually had to sand this mating surface down quite a bit actually. We had some high spots along the edge here, and then a major high spot along the edge here. I'll attach some photos there, and you guys can see partway through my sanding process kind of the highs and lows. I get that this regulator isn't necessarily made by the welding machine company, but at the same time, a little bit of more quality control would be appreciated. Like when you take it out of the box, you expect to be able to put it all together and not have these kind of problems. So it'd just be kind of nice. I'll reach out to the seller and see what they have to say about it. Maybe they've run into it before, maybe they haven't, but it's just not so nice when you can't just hook everything up, turn the machine on, and run it. Alright, so I got a couple things tweaked here. Regulator's back mounted. Solved the leak in between there. There's a white or clear-ish nylon O-ring that goes between this barb fitting and the regulator. Get rid of it, put some thread sealant in there, they just leak. It's really soft. It's not actually like a rigid nylon washer, it's an O-ring. So when you squeeze it, it starts to balloon out and it leaks from there as well. I do have one small air leak still where my airline fitting goes in. I do have thread sealant on that. It still doesn't like it, so I'm gonna have to pull that off. Put some Teflon tape on there. That should solve that. Oh, also, I had to change my clamps. Don't like the bite style clamps, but my fuel line style clamps just wouldn't go quite small enough. I still had a bit of an air leak there, so had to change them over. I will get some more of those, hopefully this week from the parts store or something like that that's a little smaller, because those, not really what I like to use long term. I am also going to do a bit of a setup here. This is your air feed and also your argon feed. So if you want to TIG, you're gonna have to take this off, disconnect the regulator, hook up your argon line, and then your argon flow meter to your tank. And then when you want to switch back to plasma, you got to disconnect this again. You can get a T and some one-way valves, and that's what I'm planning to do. I've just got to check my sizes here, and then I'm going to tee off here, have a one-way valve that goes into this air tube, and then a one-way valve that goes into the argon line. So then whatever one is feeding it, then you will have that. You won't have to disconnect it and rejig it every time. So I'll get those ordered up, show you guys when that shows up. In the meantime, I'm going to try this thing out. I'm going to move it back a little bit. It does have a fairly loud fan, and it does kick on right away. I know a lot of the other machines, you can turn them on. They don't roar right away. They will only kick on when it actually is needed. You don't have to worry about it ever overheating that way, which is good. But again, just an observation, we'll put it. So I'm gonna get this thing moved back, and I guess the only upgrade that you may want to make if you want to tuck it off into a corner and leave it would be a longer ground lead. I will have to look into that. I don't know if you can have some adverse effects if you have a longer ground lead on something like this. Do a little online research, check that out. It's about 5 feet, 6 feet. So you can get to most stuff, just depends on how small of items you're trying to do and how far away from the machine you want to be. If you want to cut down some of that noise, then you're going to want to be a little further away. Alright, test cut time. Sorry about the noise, guys. Hope you can hear me alright. This fan is quite loud on this machine. Again, you know it's not going to overheat, but it's just a little nicer if you can hear yourself think a little more when you're using some equipment. Minor detail. I've got this cutting torch. It does have a standoff tool, and that's kind of nice. I'm going to look into some drag tips as well. I will link them down in the description for compatible drag tips. They don't come directly from Everlast. So we will try this unit out here. Got some 1/8 or 3/16 plate, and we'll just see how clean of a cut we can make. Alright, I must say, that is super clean, and that was cut at 30 amps, like butter. There's no slag here. It's, well, a pretty straight cut. I wasn't really going for super straight. I was just trying to see what it would do. If you had a cutting guide, you'd be able to get this laser straight, and that's minimal sparks. You're not making a mess with a grinder. It's not taking a whole bunch of time. Hot stuff flying back at you, filings everywhere. This is going to be a huge time saver, so I'm excited to use it. I'm going to cut some of that floor pan sitting on the floor behind there, and then get it test fit onto the bottom of the car, and we can determine where we're going to cut off the bottom of the car.